Good evening. I'm Nadia Sheikh. I'm the Vice Provost for Cultural and Research Engagement here at NYU Abu Dhabi, and I'm the Director of the Institute, which is hosting this lecture. I'm delighted to welcome you this evening and to attend the lecture of Mr. Rashad Bukhash on the evolution of architecture in the UAE. Dear friends, dear colleagues, the UAE has witnessed a phenomenal transformation in the last 50 years in every walk of life. This is most visible in the incredible rise of the cities of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. The new and diverse architecture is in and of itself a reason for the tourists to come and visit the UAE. The worldwide famous buildings, Burj Khalifa and Burj Al Arab in Dubai, the incredible monument that is the Sheikh Zayed Mosque, and the beautiful sculpture that is the Louvre in Abu Dhabi are testimonies to the revolutionary transformation that the UAE has witnessed in architecture. And tonight we are delighted and grateful to have with us the chairman of the Architectural Heritage Society and the chairman of ICOM UAE, Mr. Rashad Muhammad Bukhash. Mr. Bukhash has 35 years of experience in the fields of planning, directing, managing, and supervising modern architectural projects, conservation of historic buildings, museum designing, and landscaping projects. With his background in both architecture and conservation of historic buildings, he supervised the conservation of more than 215 historic buildings in Dubai and the Emirates. He also supervised the design and execution of more than 200 modern buildings, including universities, colleges, public buildings, parks, and community facilities. Mr. Bukhash also supervised the design and execution of 14 museums in Dubai, among them the Dubai Museum, the Sheikh Saeed Al Maktoum House, the Heritage House, Al Ahmadiyya School, the Falcon Museum, the Saruq Al Hadid Archaeology Museum. Mr. Bukhash has also won many prizes. I cannot mention them all. I will single out the Rashid Prize for Scientific Excellency, the Champion of Sustainability in the Gulf States, the UAE Excellency Award in Architecture, and Pioneer Engineer in GCC countries. He wrote and supervised more than 35 books on architecture, history, and traditional architecture in the UAE. With this astounding background in both architecture and conservation of historic buildings, we are indeed fortunate to have Mr. Bukhash tonight to talk about the evolution of architecture in the UAE from the earliest archaeological sites dating to 6000 BC until the present age. Thank you very much, Mr. Bukhash, for being with us. We are grateful for your presence and are in anticipation of hearing your talk. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Nadia. Also, thanks for New York University, Abu Dhabi. The challenge was, as you mentioned, Nadia, 8,000 years of architecture in UAE, how to put it in 45 minutes. I started with 8 hours, and then I tried to reduce it to 4 hours. And I don't know, Yani, now it is 7, we can finish by 11 if it is okay. Then I'll try to make it 2 hours, then 1 hour, then 45 minutes. So I'll try, inshallah, to go. It's mostly, you can say it is a summary, because every period of these periods, archaeological sites, it needs a lecture, Islamic age needs a lecture, 1960s, 2000, even then you go into some of these, the forts and the Emirates, you need a lecture, the watchtowers, the mosque, the hotels, the towers. But as you mentioned, it is a summary of this quick thing which we are going to talk about. Always we start with the saying of late Sheikh Rashad, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, rahimahullah, may Allah be pleased with him. The very nice quote, "He who has no past has no present and no future." So it is always important to learn, to study, search our history, our past, to live the present and also to look and build for the future. And that is how the life, I think, is. Always we learn from our fathers, forefathers, we live our life, and always we are planning for our future. Starting with the ancient age, going back to 6000 BC, Dr. Mark Beach, you are here, Dr. Mark? Here, mashallah. Last year we had the oldest building in the Emirates, it was 5000 BC, but this year, mashallah, we have gone even back 1000 years to 6000 BC. This map, which was arranged by the Architectural Heritage Society, shows, don't say all, but most of the archaeological sites and historical sites, which is like 100 years old, on the United Arab Emirates. The red points, these are the archaeological sites, and you can notice that it goes from Sala' on the boundary with Saudi Arabia, up to the mountains of Hajar and Ras Al Khaimah, up to Diba. And the green dots, they are showing the historical buildings. Again, you can see most of the islands in Abu Dhabi, coming to Dubai, and sometimes the dot means, like if you go to Shandaga area, the dot means 200 buildings in Shandaga. If you go to Al Fahidi, it means 54 buildings. Al Miraja, same thing. So this is not exact, but this is what I come up to. Till now, we don't have an exact, I think, number of the historic buildings and archaeological sites in the UAE, but I think it should be something around this. And again, whether you consider Shandaga as one site or you consider as 196 sites. So there's a kind of difference, but I think Abu Dhabi is something around 800 archaeological sites and historical buildings, especially in Al Ain and Liwa. Dubai around 750. Dubai, because I was working in Dubai municipality for 30 years, yes, we have exactly, I think it is 750 something. And every year it is changing, because what we do in Dubai, every year, any building which passed 40 years to it, we do an evaluation for it. And if the evaluation comes, for example, more than 70 points out of 100, then it will be either A building listed or B listed or C listed. The archaeological sites, it is already known. We have 6 archaeological sites in Dubai till now, that is all. But if you come to Abu Dhabi, Al Ain, Liwa, you have found, they are finding more and more and more. Just last month, in Al Gwen, they found some new buildings, archaeological sites, and so on. So it is showing approximate number, we can say total of 3,250, around this number. And in the Architectural Heritage Society, we are working, just last week we had a meeting, and we are working with the municipalities and different emirates, because every emirate, they have some kind, a number of these sites. So at least we have a more precise number of these sites. This is our forefathers, the oldest site in the United Arab Emirates, oldest settlement from the Stone Age, 6,500 BC, in Ghaga Island in Abu Dhabi, which was discovered or mentioned just a few months ago. It goes back with the construction of the sandstone. It looks like a house, a settlement, or maybe it is a tomb, I don't know. I think Dr. Mark, he knows best because he worked on this. So this is the oldest site which we have now in the United Arab Emirates, about 5 or 6 rooms. And then, as you see, I'm going very fast now. I jumped from 6,000 now to 3,000. So 3,000 years, alhamdulillah, we finished. This is Bronze Age, from 3,200 to 1,300. We have the Jabal Hafid tombs in Al Ain, Jabal Hafid. Very nice restored tombs in this kind of huts. And I think just 1 week, 2 weeks ago, they opened it for public, so people can go there and see all of these sites. And we have the Healy tomb on the lower left from 2,500. Here again, if we look into the architecture of these buildings, it looks that it's not an easy kind of architecture like we have seen in Ghaga. This is something very delicate, how they put the stones together, the carving of the deers and I think monkeys or something on the building. So it is a very nicely sophisticated way of architecture, which means that they were very civilized people at that time. On the right, we have Tel Abraq from Al Gwen, from same area, 3,000 BC, which again, it needs a lot of studies and research on that site. Also, the Bronze Age, we have Nar civilization, which is very famous. And it's very strange that these circular tombs, you find them in all the Emirates. You find them in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, in Sharjah, in Dibba, and all different parts of the Emirates, as if even, say, 5,000 years ago, it was as one country. It goes even into Oman. Yani. So the main one, we have Nar, and it was called Nar civilization because the first site was discovered in Nar Island in Abu Dhabi, and that is the one on the top. The one down, it is the same kind of idea. It is tombs with different rooms where they bury the dead people, and then after 50 years, 60 years, they put them out, and new burial, new bodies will be put in. And the one on the right is Al-Sufuh tomb from 2500 in Dubai, just behind the towers of Sheikh Zayed Road. It's very strange. And if you just pass, just cross the towers, you can find this archaeological site on the back of it. Going to the Iron Age, I think one of the most important sites which we have, which was discovered by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashad Al Maktoum, Saruq Al Hadid. Saruq means lowland in the Bedouin or the Arabic language. Hadid means iron, so it is the land of irons. And it's very strange in the middle of the desert with all of these sands and sand dunes. Sheikh Mohammed, he was in his helicopter flying a little bit low, and he saw all of this dark black thing on the ground. So he landed in Al Marmoum and he went to the site and he found thousands and thousands of iron. So something very strange to find in the middle of the desert. So he asked the archaeologists to start digging, and on the depth of 8 meter, 9 meter, daggers, swords, gold, pots, and still, right now we have about, say, 200 by 200 meter, which is discovered, and that is only about 10% of the site. More than 14,000 arrowheads. As they say, the archaeologists, it's mostly to be an industrial city or village where all of these things were made, especially the swords, iron swords, little bit of gold and things like that. That's a very nice, interesting site, and still lot of information to be known about the place, because usually when there is an archaeological site, there is a settlement, there is graves, there are tombs, and here Saruq al-Hadid, you don't find anything of this. Only construct, you just dig and find pots, swords, daggers, no tombs, no housing, no settlement. Maybe, inshallah, in the near to this site, because it is an army land, we can find a lot of these cities and tombs and these things. So these are some of the items which was found on the left. You can see the big pots about 1 meter high, and all of them, as we see in many of the sites in Emirates, in Bahrain, Qatar, snakes on it, whether they were worshipping or it was something to get power from, and so on. And also a lot of gold items, as you know, the one in the middle, this is the logo for Expo Dubai, because it has 20 heads from out and 20 heads from inside. So it is exactly 2020, which was Dubai Expo. Then third stage, maybe going to the Hellenistic period after Alexander the Great. Alexander didn't reach the Emirates. He was in Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, and up to India. But his armies, they came to Kuwait, Failaka, to Bahrain, Tailis, and also to Sharjah. You can see these pots with some Greek letters on the bottom of it. The fort, which was built in Meleha, in Sharjah from the 1st century. The foundation are still there and restored. And also a very nice temple or home of worship in Ad-Dur site, also from Al-Gwain. And Ad-Dur is, I don't think it's open for public, but one of the largest, again, archaeological sites in the Emirates. Usually the archaeologists, they say, if you are walking in a desert or in the mountain, if you find some pottery, it means there is something there. So you have to dig and find. If you go to Al-Dur area, 1 by 1 kilometer, as I say, you don't find the pottery, but you cannot walk because of the number of the potteries. Thousands and thousands of potteries, which means that under the ground coins, pots, all of these different things are there. And that is real. Hundreds and hundreds of pieces have been found. This marble pot is from Meleha, 100 BC. Also a glazed clay from Bidya, Fujairah, from the same date. So these are mostly then related to the Greek civilization who were ruling at that time that place. Very unique also, the Christian presence in the Gulf, most of the Gulf, from Bahrain to Emirates, especially in the islands. I don't know what was the reason. Maybe it was more settled, more secured. They found in Sir Baniyas, and also in Al Quwain also there was a church which was found, and also in some of the Saudi Arabia eastern islands. So this is the Nestorian church and monastery in Sir Baniyas from 600 AD, which is the beginning of the Islamic. 570 was the beginning of the Islamic era. So it is mostly from the same time with some kind of Christian decorations. You can see the cross and all of these things. Second stage, that was the old one. Now we're starting with the Islamic. We don't have much of the Islamic. We know that Islam started in the 7th year of the Islam. It arrived to the area, but we don't have much of the Islamic sites. We have Jumeirah, which is a very important one. We have in Diba. Diba was a very well-known city even before Islam. It was one of the souks or the markets of Islam. And these souks, as we say, as we have nowadays, what they do, the shopping festival. This was the shopping festival in the Islamic history. So at the time of the pilgrimage, it was in Mecca. Next month, it was going to, for example, Dawmat al-Jandal. Next month, going to another, to make the commerce and the economic life alive. So one time it was in Diba. So you can notice that it's moving from Mecca to Najd to Diba and Fujairah. So as they say, it was one of the aswaq of the Arab communities. And just also last week, Sheikh Sultan Al-Qasimi, they mentioned they found some of the forts and some of the houses. So there are a little bit of the Islamic archaeological sites. And then the mosque, which was found also in Al-Ain from the Abbasi period. Nothing I think we have from the early Islamic, even the Umayyad. Mostly what we have is from Abbasi and later on. So this site in Jumeirah from the 9th century, it looks like a village with the mosque, house, a shop, the wali house, and so on. A lot of pieces of pottery and things were found, and a couple of these coins from the Buwayhi period, which was under the Abbasi. This is by the king who was called Samsam al-Dawla. His capital was in Shiraz in Iraq, but all of this area was under his control. And the date is written 344 Hijri, which is 956 AD. And some of these coins were found in Jumeirah. The one on the top is from the same time. This is a small mosque in Al-Ain, which was found. And then later on, we can see the Bidya Mosque, which is a very well-known mosque in Bidya, in Fujairah. Unique again, as they say, the architect, he told the people that I can build you a house, a mosque, 4 domes and 1 column only. They said that is impossible, and that's what he did. So 1 column in the middle and 4 domes on the side with 4 beams, 2 beams going each direction. A very nice, a small and unique mosque, which is still in use. People passing between Khorfakan and Fujairah, they can pass by the area. Then 15 something, we had the Portuguese started to come at the end of the century, beginning of the 15th century, and they occupied South Africa, Zanzibar, Aden, Oman, most of the Gulf cities which we had at that time, Kalba, Bidya, Khorfakan, Julfar, going up to southern part of Iran, India, Goa, going to, it's very strange that this small country, Portugal in Europe, they were ruling from Japan up to South America. And then the Dutch came, and then the British, and so on. After they were defeated in the main capital of Hormuz, that was the Hormuz, and it was a kind of cooperation between the Portuguese and the Hormuzian at that time. And the British, they defeated them, so they started to build these forts, especially in the cities were under control in the Gulf, southern part of the Gulf. So Khorfakan and Kalba, they built these forts. Khorfakan is still, the foundation is there, and Sheikh Sultan, again, he mentioned just 2 weeks ago that they will start some restoration for the foundation of the fort. It's a kind of large wall, and you can see that the houses and the church, I think, and some of the buildings are inside. The one in Khorfakan, you see how they wrote Khorfakan. It was a triangle shape, but a very European shape of forts, as you see with the angles of the building. This is the foundation of the Portuguese. I think they had 5 of these forts in Kalba, Bidia, Khorfakan, Diba, and Jilfar, which is Ras Al Khaimah. This foundation is still there also, near Al-Bidia Mosque from 1623, which was built. And this is the largest one in Diba from 1624, and that is, I think, what Sheikh Sultan mentioned just last week, that they will start some restoration for it. And as they say, the city of Diba, because it's a very old city, so on the foundations, like it's in Egypt, wherever you dig, you find something. Something close to that you can find in Dubai. And some of the people, even under their modern houses, they can find some pots and items from the very early Islamic time. So this was the largest one. You can see the fort is in the middle, and then walls around the city, a couple of walls here and there, and then the palm trees and the mountains at the back. I don't know what is this one. Okay, the third stage, we'll go to the traditional architecture from, can say, 1800 until 1950. Now these dates are not very exact because some of the building may be a little bit earlier from 1800, and at the end also a little bit different. Again, I say thanks to the British, because the good thing about the British, before they go and occupy any country, they study it exactly very well. They draw all the maps, all the plans, complete survey. Well, I didn't write here. This was, for example, from the north, Kuwait to Qatar, Doha, Bahrain, all the cities, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, Oman, and this. So these were the maps which was drawn. This was drawn by Lieutenant Coogan from the British Maritime. In 1820, they drew the city and they write a description for the city. So for us, and this is a very priceless item, because this is the only map of the cities of the Gulf which we have from 1800. And for example, this is Dubai, this is the creek, this is Shandaga. Shandaga was completely empty, nothing there. Even Deira, nothing in Deira. And we have that historically in our books, because we know that Al Maktoum, when they moved from Abu Dhabi to Dubai in 1833, the village, we can say, because the population, it was between 1,000 to 1,200. It was only in Bar Dubai, which is this one. And Coogan, he described that there was a wall around the city, and the description is very precise. The height of it, it is about, say, 2.5 meters. The thickness of the wall is about 50 centimeters. There is 3 towers, and we know exactly the West Tower, the East Tower, and the tower next to the fort, Fahedi Fort. And then he mentions how many people are living there, 1,000 to 1,200. They have about 200 houses. The houses, he mentioned that it is made of mud, which is gypsum and stone. And then he counts how many camels they have, how many horses they have, and most importantly, military things. He mentions that these towers, everyone, they have like 3 to 4 cannons on the top of it, but he mentions that the cannons mostly are rusted, so they are not in use if they go into any fight. And the ruler, he has about 100 of guards. They have a little bit of swords and so on. So a very nice description of the city. And we traced exactly the foundations of the wall, and we know exactly where some of the parts we found it in the 1960s. Still, it was there, and the others we exactly know because of the interviews with the old people where it was going. And then, as we know that this was 1820, 1841, because of some diseases in Bar Dubai, people moved to Deira, and in 1861 the city expanded, so they moved to Shandaga and they started. Then the wall completely was gone away. This is Dubai. Like I think any city of the Gulf in 1950. So here, that was the old city here, the wall which we have seen. This is Bar Dubai, which was now the market area, Al Fahedi Fort, and part of Al-Fahidi area. So then they moved to Deira in 1845, and Deira expanded much more with the markets, with the souks, with the houses, mostly either coral stone houses or the barasti houses, the palm tree fronds, which are you can notice these kind of black ones. And this is Shandaga with the creek in the middle. This is one of the very preferred photos to me. It's very nice. You can see the old city, the homogeneous city, the combination between the fort and the middle, Al-Fahidi, the mosque next to it, the souk area, and then the residential, which was Shandaga, Al-Ras, and Bardubay, Al-Fahidi or Bastakia. And you can notice the houses, the one which is maybe more rich people, the sheikhs, and so made of coral stone along the creek, and one at the back for the middle income people from palm tree, which is Barasti. And you can see the color of the building because most of the houses was from coral stone and gyps, so this kind of unity between the buildings, and a lot of these towers, wind towers, which was on the top of the buildings again. I'll go quickly into typology of the buildings. So here we have the defensive, which again was very important. Most of the cities, even going from Qatar, Bahrain, it was walled cities because usually the attack was coming from the desert. So this one was the city, the wall around the city of Dubai, which we found the foundation. It was there and we constructed part of it just to get an idea. This one in the 1960s was there, which is exactly in the location, and we restored it in front of Al-Fahidi Fort. Also Al Quwain wall, and there is Sharjah wall also. So most of these cities, they had walls with watchtowers along it to guard the city itself. The buildings, the forts itself, I counted now we have about 67 forts, which is still existing in the Emirates. And I think this needs a whole lecture by itself, the shapes, the size, and all of these things of the fort. And some of them is these old ones from Meleha, for example, but most of them starting from 1793, Qasr al-Hassan in Abu Dhabi, because the fort or Al-Hassan, it was the settlement or it was the housing for the ruling family. So Al-Nahyan, they were living in Al-Hassan Fort, Al-Maktoum and Fahidi Fort, Al-Qasimi and Sharjah Fort and Ras Al-Khayma. And so every city, every village, they had their fort. And in the time of war or attack or anything, all the families, women and children, everyone was getting into the fort itself. Like I think in any European or Chinese or Japanese city even. Then we had the watchtowers, and this was, we can say, three types. There were watchtowers on the boundary of the city to check if anyone is coming, any attack, anything. Some of the strategic areas like Al-Maqta Tower between Abu Dhabi and the land itself, so they can control who is coming in, Burj Nahar. And they come in two shapes, either circular, in Arabic we call them Burj, or it comes in rectangular shape, we call it Murabba'a, which is a square or rectangle. Very unique one is Riyul. Riyul means the mother of the legs, because this is, I think, this is the only one in the Gulf, I think, with, anyone can know how many legs there? 5? 10? What is 10? 8? No. They are 7. Very difficult. This is 1, 2, 3. These are walls, 4 walls. And here you can see the shade of 3 columns on this side. So 4 and 3 are 7. And usually the guards, they were on the upper floor because they can see more. And even if someone is attacking, they cannot get. So only they can climb the wall with a rope to get in. And here the upper ones are cobblestone construction, and the lower one like in Ras Al-Khayma Al-Ain, because of the material which is available, they were using muds and so on, and most of them are restored now. We have more than 130 of these towers, and we are thinking to start registering them as a World Heritage Sites, because it is something unique, I think, different shape, different sizes, and so. Coming to the residential buildings, the oldest, as we know, were the Bedouins, who were moving from a place to place, looking for shelter, looking for grass for their camels and animals, wherever the rain is coming. So they had these portable tents or portable houses for men, women, and guests, and so on, made from the hairs of camels and goats, and so on. Then in the mountain areas, Masafi, Hatta, Al Ain, sometimes mountains of Ras Al Khaimah, we can find a lot of mud houses because the mud was available in the valleys. And the top will be from Barasti, again from palm tree fronds, very small houses. And every one of these houses is for a whole family. The father, mother, 3, 4 children, and maybe another one for the animals and the goats and so on. In Ras Al Khaimah, we find a lot of these stone houses on the mountains, Ru'us al Jibal. They call it Beit Gufl, with the lock, and different sizes and different shapes. And the more common one is the Barasti and the palm tree Arish, which you find it on the coastal area. It's easy to build. You find it in the desert with the Bedouin. You find it in the valleys and the mountains also, because easy to build and it stays for a long time, used in summer with wind tower and winter also. This is just the design of the Arish, or the palm tree house. So if the flat is straight, so that is the summer house. If it is pitched, that is for winter. In the summer they were keeping the wind tower, but the portable wind tower again, which you can fix it. And then they had the kitchen a little bit to the side, the adab or the hammam, the toilet also to the side, because the manama, no electricity, so they have to sleep, especially in the summer nights, outside, a little bit raised one, and a tree and some pigeons and goats and so on. The houses of the sheikhs, of the rich people, merchants, it was much larger, much bigger. And as we say, it was for the extended families, the grandfather, the sons, the daughters, and their grandchildren, and so on. So these are some examples, because we have hundreds of these. Sheikh Saeed House, for example, in Shandaga, started in 1896, but with the family extending, the house also extends. So the building, when it started, it was just like a fort with few rooms. And then when the sons are coming and they get married and so on, it became larger and larger. And then starting from 1905, with the big immigration of the people from southern Iran, from Lenja to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, started to bring also their architecture of the wind towers and the decorative elements. So we see that these wind towers started in the Emirates from 1902, 1903 and onward. This house is my grandfather's house. It's built in 1925. I lived in the house for 17 years, about 25 rooms and 3 wind towers. That is my room where I lived. Very nice house also. And now there is this book by Peter Jackson, The Wind Tower. I think it's available in the market. Very nice, and it talks mostly about the history of the place. And that's where mainly I loved architecture. Since I was 13 years old, I helped Peter Jackson with measuring the house and so on. So it was nice sketching, drafting and drawing these elements. An-Nabuda house from 1845, also a very unique house. So these are just few examples of different coral stone houses in the Emirates. Al-Marikhi house from Delma Island in Delma from 1870. Mosques, as I mentioned, one of the oldest existing is Al-Bidya. Then we have also some very old mosques, for example, the Qasimi and Qawasim Mosque in Ras Al Khaimah, which is restored recently. Started in 1780, and there is second stage on the top of it and third stage on the top of it. So you find all of these stages of different mosques. In Jazira al-Hamra, there is, I think, 6 mosques on the top of each other for more than 200-300 years. The Grand Mosque in Bar Dubai with these 54 domes, unfortunately demolished, and now new mosque is there in that place. The old souks or markets, this is the oldest photo which we could find of Dubai. With the American machinery which were coming from Massachusetts to Emirates from 1890 up to 1910. And so these photos, this is Souk al-Arsa, and the camels. Souk al-Arsa means the open market. So the Bedouins, they come with their charcoals, with some lemon and things from the desert, and they sell and they buy rice and oil and so. Grand Souk of Bar Dubai after restoration, and Souk al-Arsa also in Sharjah. Same idea, shops on the 2 sides. And when this souk becomes larger and larger, then it becomes specialized. For example, now you go to Daira markets, you have the herbs market, you have the cotton market, utensils market. And then on the sides, you have the markets which makes a little bit noise. So Safarin, the metal market, and then you have the camel and the goat market and the outskirts of the city. Educational buildings, schools, there was not much of them. Some of the oldest were Al-Ahmadiyya School, which was started in 1912 in Deira. Unique also school. We did the restoration in 1993. Al-Falah School from 1927. Now, not this building is the school, but these 4 tents, the Arish, this were the school. My father, he studied there in the 1930s. And Al-Sha'b School, which were beginning of the formal schools from 1959. And this is the school where I studied my elementary years. Administrative buildings also, we didn't have much of this, but we have Al-Murabba'a in Al-Ain, which was place for the government of Sheikh Zayed, mainly built in 1948. And it became the place for the office for the police, and now restored. And I think there is a museum that's next to it, but this is also, I think there is an idea to make it a museum. Al-Maqta' Fort, again, guarding the water between the Abu Dhabi island and the land. In Dubai, we have from 1934 the first oldest, one of the oldest office buildings, which is Al-Wakil House. It was for the Gray Mackenzie and the maritime trade shipping, which was going between Bombay and Dubai. And the first, this is from the 1950s and 60s architecture, first municipality building from 1958, which is now restored, and it is the museum of the Dubai municipality. Quickly talking about different parts of the building. So we had the main entrance, and usually the zigzag entrance to give the privacy. If people are outside, they cannot see, especially the women and the families inside the building. And always the majlis, either to the right or to the left of the entrance, and this is the men majlis. Men majlis was, this is my grandfather's house. Men majlis was like the hotel, because 1940s, 50s, we didn't have any hotels. So if we have any families coming from Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Kuwait, they stay in this majlis. The men will be in the men majlis and the ladies will be inside, and they stay for 2 and 3 months, and that is the place. And this is the only place which is open to outside and it's not looking to inside. Then we have the courtyard, like all of the villas, and the outer rooms and the inner rooms. And very unique thing that in winter we were using the lower ground floor. You can notice that the walls are very thick and warm. And then in summer, always we had this migration to the upper floors where there is wind towers and more open, so you will get the breeze and so. The gates of the buildings, usually it shows who is the owner of the house. If it is a sheikh, then more decoration, more elements. If it is middle class, less, and so on. So these are some of the gates. Mahmoud family house in Ajman. There is a project now for restoration. This is Bukhash house, my grandfather. And Rashidi House, which is now the Office for Architectural Heritage Society in Al Fahidi, with these geometrical decorations made from powder of charcoal to give this black and white coloring to the place. Courtyard was a very important element of the building, especially for the natural ventilation. The air is coming from the wind towers and going through the courtyard, evaporating, and always this movement is there. In addition to having a nice maybe rose tree or almond tree, some pigeons, sometimes even camels and goats in the courtyard itself. And wind towers, as I mentioned, from 1902, 1903, it became a very unique piece of architecture of the Gulf Hall area with different shapes, 3 opening, sometimes 6 opening, especially this one, Majlis Ibrahim al-Midfa in Sharjah, circular one, and it was again working as a very nice element for air conditioning of the building itself. Many studies mentioned in this wind tower book, and we studied that in summer, if the temperature outside is 35, for example, under the wind tower, mostly it is 10 degrees less, so it will be 25. It is 45 outside. Most of the time under the wind tower will be 35. So it was a very nice element of the building, very nicely used also. The ceilings, again, the oldest one. For example, in Dubai, if we see the ceiling of the house, if it is from palm tree trunk, it means it is before 1900. If it is the chandal wood, which was brought from Zanzibar and East Africa, it is mostly from 1900 to 1940. And if it is the redwood ceiling, which is the murabba, then it is 1940 to 1965. Decorations, we made also a few books on the decorations. One of the best is we made about 920 old decorations which we have in the historic buildings of Dubai. We put it in this book, whether it is columns, capitals, doors, walls, all of these things. And mainly it will be from gypsum, either geometrical shape or floral shape. Sometimes you have some calligraphies, wisdoms or verses from Quran or Hadith. And very rarely they were using the glass also, different colors, especially in the living rooms and the bedrooms. And again, very rarely, maybe 2 places only, where they were using the colors also. Matter of fact, this was made by Ustad Muhammad al-Banna, and he used it in 2 places of what I know. One place is Qasr al-Hassan in Abu Dhabi, and one place was my aunt room when she got married. My grandfather, he made this room for her with some pigeons, some writings, Tawakkaltu ala Allah, MashaAllah, and so on. The doors, the wood also was used a lot in the decoration and in the use also, especially the doors mainly from teak wood, which was imported from India. Why they use teak wood? Because it is very strong and it can resist the termite. The chandal and the palm tree trunks, these are very good food for termites, but the teak wood, because it is very solid, it was staying for hundreds of years, but again, a lot of carving and decorations. Okay, now coming into the 60s. 60s were beginning of the production of oil. We can say end of the traditional architecture, starting with the town planning of Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah. The new materials of concrete, of steel, of iron started to come in, starting with the building regulations. For example, Dubai we had in 1971. It was good and it was bad, because building regulation, for example, in Dubai 1971, the houses, no more they can build the courtyard houses. They have to have the boundary wall, 10 foot between the wall and the house, the villa, and then the house. So it stopped completely designing and using of the traditional way of construction. And then this all modern concrete and steel, everything came in, and it started a lot with the infrastructure, roads, bridges, the tunnel, all of these things. So we can see some of these. And very nicely you can see how late Sheikh Zaid, rahimahullah, yani when he was looking on the planning, just sitting on the ground with Abdurrahman Makhlouf, who was the main planner of Abu Dhabi, just going over the plans and different things. This was the first planning of the city of Dubai from 1958. They kept the old city as it is. Now this city, if we compare to today, this is less than 1%, 1958, of what is Dubai today. Yani more than 20 multitude time it expanded and expanded. But they made, for example, this is Al Karama, Bar Dubai, Al Safiya, and some of the roads. So beginning of all of this construction started. These are some of the nice houses or buildings. Unfortunately, I think one of them is on, 2 of them are existing, and we are trying hard now. Alhamdulillah, we can say the buildings of 50s and before, a lot of them have been restored, but Ministry of Culture now and the society are trying hard at least to keep the buildings of the 1970s and 80s to be part of the memory and the history of every city in the Gulf. So this was the first airport in Dubai from 1959, a very nice, you can say a little bit of effect of the imperialism, the British architecture, in addition to the local arches. The second, we can say, municipality building, again, these office buildings. This is still there also. The second airport of Dubai, 1971, is still, it is there as architecture, and the first hospital. So a lot of these buildings, hospitals and governmental buildings, airports, it was started beginning of 1960s and 70s. And also these bridges, the first bridge between Dubai and Deira. Before that, people had to drive along the creek to the end of the creek and come to the other side. Al-Maqta' Bridge, 1968, the first bridge again between the island of Abu Dhabi and the land. The first tunnel under the creek from 1975, and that's how they built the canal. It was, I remember every Friday in the 70s, that was our picnic. So we were going to Shandaga to see how they are working on the tunnel itself. What they did, they closed half of the creek, they dredged and they built this half, and then they opened, put the water on, and then the other half. So they interconnected exactly under the water, and then they opened for the traffic. Some of the design of the building, and here we had a starting of different, because architects and engineers from different parts of the world, from Iran, from India, some from Europe, they're coming. But this kind of unique architecture of the 60s, the main entrance, the staircase, 2 flats on the right, 2 flats on the left, and shops. This you can find in Dubai, Sharjah, Bahrain, many places, Kuwait. So I think it was a kind of unique architecture. Little bit of buildings. This has been Darwish. Unfortunately, also a few years ago, it was demolished. And then the steel windows. The clustra was a very, and it took place of the decoration elements of gypsum, because decorative elements, it was made piece by piece, one by one. Here now it came the production, so hundreds it was done. And even the paint of this bluish color, it came in the 60s. And this is a little bit more advanced, the 1980s villas and so on, which still we can see in the country. Also a lot of monuments started. For example, the clock tower, 1963, which was to commemorate the opening of Al Maktoum Bridge. It was just there, and still it is there. It was restored again and again. And this clock tower, I think, maybe it's related a little bit to the Ottoman, because the Ottoman, the Turkish, in every city they had this clock tower. So something related, I think, to that. We have the fish roundabout, or the fish monument, which is still there. We kept it in one of the roundabouts. Then talking about the 1980s up to 2000, again, the town planning every 10, 20 years, it is because the city is growing. For example, the population was in Dubai in 1970 like 50,000. It went to 200,000, so 3 times more and more. So always this town planning is going on and on. Very important thing that a lot of conservation projects started in Al Ain, in Dubai, in Sharjah, and other emirates, so between 1980 and especially 2000. And a lot of modern projects then started, and the continuation of the infrastructure. Just to see the population, how it developed, 1956, the country, UAE, was about 82,000 only. And then every 10 years, you can see that it goes double. So 66, 161, 76. This is too much. Now 1970s, there was beginning of the production of oil, and hundreds of thousands of laborers and people were coming from different countries to work in the construction and development. 86, 1,400,000, 96, 2,400,000, 2006, 5 million, 2016, 9 million. I think now we are more than 10 million, and you can see the shape, how it is going higher and higher. Some of the first plannings of 2002 of Dubai, always just to cope with the... now, for example, if we can see 1950 was only this minute Bar Dubai and Deira, that was all. And now in 2002, it went up to Jabal Ali, the Palm Island of Jumeirah, Jabal Ali, and all of this development. And this was 2010 with the World Island, Deira. So the city grown more than 200 times more of the size of what it was. These are some of the projects from the 80s. Again, some of the governmental buildings, and some of them very nice international competition, like Dubai Municipality, which was won by a Japanese architect. And still, when you look at it, it is a very nice modern building. The idea of the oasis, the water, the shade of the tent, and all of these things. Sharjah Central Market, I think designed by an Italian architect. The use again of the wind tower for ventilation, and the shops on the 2 sides. The flying saucer in Sharjah, which was restored just last year, I think. And it became like a cultural area, modern design. And some of the buildings which took from the Islamic architecture also. This is the land department in 1992 in Dubai. Different mosques also. We have our own traditional design of the mosque, but again, with different architects. For example, the Jumeirah Grand Mosque, this was done by Egyptian architect, typical mosque from Egypt, which came to Dubai, and still it is going on because it's very unique, the masses, the proportions, and so. King Faisal in 1987 in Sharjah was a little bit more modern, different designs using the arches in a very more simple way, large mosque. Grand Mosque, this was exactly in the place of that 54 domes in Bar Dubai. Again, they used the domes and so on, but with traditional architecture, but again with concrete and modern materials. Beginning of the towers, the first one and the whole Gulf was the Burj Rashid, the World Trade Center from 1979, opened by late Queen of Britain, Queen Elizabeth. And also from 1995, the Baynuna Tower with glass cladding in Sharjah. And as you see, I'm just going quick. Again, also beginning of nice hotels. The first hotel, the first modern, we can say, hotel in Dubai, the Hyatt Regency from 1980. And then the very unique Burj Al Arab from 1999, and the Jumeirah Hotel, which started. And also some buildings which were taken from the traditional Islamic architecture. We see now that His Highness Sheikh Sultan Al Qasimi in Sharjah, most of the governmental buildings and the universities, and he's in love with the, mostly we can say, Islamic Egyptian architecture. And as they say that His Highness, he designs the elevations himself. So he has the references and the books and all of this. This is the Sharjah University City, the American University, Police, and other universities from 1997. Some of the recreation, also a lot of parks, Safa Park, Al Mamzar Park from 1994. Again, some modern buildings which is taking the ideas of the traditional architecture, like the Golf and Yacht Club in 1993, taking the idea of the sails of the traditional boats of the Gulf. And some of them, again, very modern. The Children's City, which is Children Museum in Dubai also, like cubes with nice, attractive colors for the children. And it started with a few museums also, this in the 80s and 90s. For example, Dubai Museum, which I worked on for about a year and a half. The Islamic Civilization Museum in Sharjah, Ajman Museum. It was a kind of idea that, yes, we are losing a lot of history, so we have to keep. So the first museum, we know that it was in Al Ain from 1969, and the second was Dubai Museum. So it was an idea to keep this history, which is quickly fading away. A lot of conservation projects also because of that started. This is Shandaga, for example. What we did, we made more than 20 interviews with the old people. So we got all the 196 names of the owners. And then we started, it was demolished in 1991. A foundation were there, so we started looking into the old maps, making interviews, old photographs. So we came to know how the shapes of this building were. So these are some photos of the houses before restoration and after. So this was Sheikh Saeed house, the ruler's family, and Shandaga before restoration. You see this very dilapidated, and the walls and the roofs is fallen down. That's after restoration. Sheikh Ubaid bin Thani house. Al Ahmadiyya school, that was the situation, and now it is the Museum of Education. The Heritage House in Deira. I remember when we were doing restoration, a lot of snakes, scorpions, and the courtyard, because it was left for more than 10 years. No one was living there. The market area also, that was the situation. Yeah, a lot of shutter, aluminum shutter doors, the roof was of chinko, very bad shape. So this became this one. After restoration, we put the ceiling back and so. And this was the Grand Souk of Deira. Window AC units, cement, the neons and all of these things. So we removed all of these things and took it back to its original shape itself. Fahedi was a very important project which we did, 54 houses. And this was, we can say, the only area which was completely restored, because Shandaga was demolished, but Fahedi was kept because it was suspended. And we restored all of the houses, finished in 2008. And now it is a cultural museum, touristic area with restaurants, boutique hotels, and so on. This is an aerial photo of Al-Fahidi. And same thing in all of these different emirates. For example, in Al Ain, a lot of forts and buildings with mud construction. Jahili Fort was restored, Fujairah Fort, Sharjah, a lot of buildings were done also. This is Jazira Al-Hamra, which right now it is under restoration, more than 400 houses. Al-Zayd Fort, which was opened this year. Right now we are working also with the government of Al-Quwain, the old city, about 350 houses, the old souk, inshallah, to be restored also. Also in Dubai, we have put a regulation that any building in the middle of the city, the old part, which is this one, no more modern building, no concrete glass cladding and glass blocks and all of these things. And we made the reference books for the architects and the consultancy offices. So, for example, this is the Ittisalat building with traditional face. The idea was at least that this all part of the city to keep it with the traditional architecture. The rest of Dubai is modern architecture, but this part to be kept. This is the post office building. It is a modern building, but the elements, and very important, the painting and the color to be traditional, like the gypsum. And this is also using the traditional elements. You can see a little bit of glass and so, but the general idea language is the traditional architecture. Finally, we came to the millennium, from 2000 until today. Again, here we can see that more international architects and international consultancy offices, they came into competitions. And we can know that Dubai and the Emirates, they are coming to kind of international cities, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Sharjah, competing and sometimes becoming even better than New York and London, having Burj Khalifa and these nice museums and so on. So we see some of this. A lot of concentration again on the sustainability of the buildings themselves. The mega projects of Palm Island, Emirates Heights, the Yanabi, and these large projects. Infrastructure, again, continuation with transportation, airports, and so on. Very nice 5-star and 7-star luxury hotels, shopping centers and mall, cultural projects of museums and opera houses, and so on. These are some of them. 2007, for example, the first villa was occupied in Palm Jumeirah. It's going about 9 kilometers into the sea and 5 kilometers of width. The springs and the heights and all of these things with thousands of villas, which is developing the cities. Masdar city, the sustainable city, which is looking what are the cities to be in the future and going into different stages. Again, using the idea of the wind tower and all of these things, a kind of trial how to reduce the energy consumption and so. Roads and transportation, we know that most of the airports, like Dubai Airport, becoming now one of the largest airports in the world, number of the passengers and the transit passengers who are going. The Emirates becoming, as I think I know, the first #1 country in the highways and the streets, the transportation and connection between the cities. Metro without driver for 70 kilometers, and then the cruise terminal and many transportation building which is coming. This picture, it shows how the city is, the tower at the back, the towers here, and Sheikh Zayed Road and Al-Difa intersection of 3 levels with landscaping and so on, which is becoming part of the language of the city itself. Sheikh Zayed Bridge, again done by late Zaha Hadid in 2010. So we are having this kind of unique buildings with unique architects of the world. The Tolerance Bridge on the canal in Dubai, and I call it the Twisted Bridge, again very nice architecture done also in Dubai. And late the Infinity Bridge, between which is helping Shandaga tunnel with 6 rows going and 6 rows coming, the shape of the infinity. Also the towers, we know we have hundreds and hundreds of these towers coming in most of our cities. In Abu Dhabi, this is Marina in Dubai, very nice, sophisticated, done by very good architects from different part of the world. And I think the most unique is the Burj Khalifa, done by Amar, finished in 2010. The architect was SOM, American, which is the highest tower in the world for more than 12 years now. 829 meters, 163 floors. And they have a lot of innovations. One of them is the fastest elevator in the world, which was just made for Burj Khalifa. Universities, very, again, nice architecture universities. Zayed University, I didn't put New York, I have to put it, I think. Zayed University also in Dubai. This was when I was the director of the projects department in Dubai municipality. That was the project which I worked on. Very nice. Again, the idea of the courtyard, the main atrium here, and the colleges, 6 colleges to the site, Khalifa University, and many, many other universities which came up. Again, a lot of projects in the field of culture, especially Abu Dhabi with the Saadiyat Island. And the museums, right now we have about 190 museums in the Emirate, 65 governmental, 125 private. It started with the very simple museums like Al Ain and Dubai and archaeology and everything. Then it went into the specialized museum, the Falcon Museum, Horse Museum, Camel Museum, Ladies Museum, Women Museum, Coffee. And then with Abu Dhabi museums, it came now to the international level, the Louvre Abu Dhabi, and the coming, inshallah, Guggenheim, and this other museum which is coming to be on a very international level with a very nice architecture and architects who designed them, and very, very unique and nice places. Louvre Abu Dhabi 2017, Al-Ittihad, done by Japanese Canadian architect, Qasr al-Hassan in Abu Dhabi, and just I'm showing few out of the 190. This is one of the latest from 2022, the Bukhash Geology Park, which is kind of geology museum in Al-Bukhash area, in the mountain areas. And the latest, the Museum of the Future, as Sheikh Mohammed said, to be one of the most beautiful buildings of the very iconic of the world. And even from inside, this calligraphy, Arabic calligraphy, mainly to show how the life will be in 2071, transportation, health, education, and everything. This is Shandaga Museum. Again, Sheikh Mohammed ordered the municipality to make this Shandaga 192 buildings, which was completely restored and many of them reconstructed, as the largest open museum in the Middle East, covering all the issues related to the culture and the life of the people of the Emirates. So more than 28 wings, and most of them are finished. Inshallah, October or November, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed will open it. You can go and visit. It is open, yani, but not formally. So the Bedouin life, the desert life, the coastal life, merchants. For example, right now, the history of the creek, perfume museum, Al Maktoum family, social life, economical life, all of these are open. And as I say, yani, 28 museum. If minimum you need 1 hour for each one, so you need 28 hours to visit, which is like 3 to 4 days. There is a boutique hotel there. There is a traditional restaurant. So it's going to be the largest museum in the area. These are some of the photos, the perfume museum, the Greek history museum, and very nicely done, very modern way of showing the items and so on. Also in this period, we had very nice large mosques which came up, especially Sheikh Zayed Mosque, 2007, being the 8th, I think, largest and most beautiful mosque in the world. Lately also Sheikh Khalifa Mosque in Al Ain, very nice. Sheikh Zayed Mosque in Fujairah, very similar to the Sultan Ahmed Mosque in Istanbul. And also the Sharjah Museum, again with the Turkish Ottoman design. And also the modern mosques, Abdurrahman Siddiq Mosque, for example, in Palm Jumeirah, the DIFC Mosque done by RMGM, I think, in Dubai, the Gargash book. You can see the simplicity and the using of the traditional architecture, which is another language of architecture rather than copying the old architecture. Now here the architects are trying to bring new ideas, simplicity to the language of mosques again. A lot of, as I mentioned, 5 and 7 stars hotels, the Emirates Palace in Abu Dhabi from 2005. Again, Islamic architecture, local architecture mixed. The Hayat Capital Hotel in Abu Dhabi, 2011. It is the most leaning tower or building in the world, more than Pisa Tower. And we have that in Abu Dhabi. Atlantis Hotel in Dubai, and also the Palace. Again, you can notice they are taking the idea of the wind tower and gypsum and so on and putting in this modern and new architecture. And a very nice one in Liwa, the Qasr al-Sarab Hotel, Abu Dhabi, very nice in the middle of the desert and the sand dunes. And the latest ones coming, the Royal Atlantis, inshallah, supposed to be open this year. And also one and only in Zabil in Dubai. Some of the governmental buildings, the Gate, for example, in Dubai, the headquarters of Al Dar, 2008, Dar Al Hikmah, Bayt Al Hikmah Library in Sharjah, opened 2020, and also lately the Kana in Abu Dhabi. A lot of shopping centers, and the idea is now also that the shopping centers are not for shopping only, but you can go to Emirates Mall and they can have skiing. You can go to Dubai Mall and they can see the aquarium. So it is a leisure of a whole day from 10 a.m. until even we have people, they go 9 and 8 a.m. to the malls, especially in summer, and they use it for jogging and walking because it is outside is very humid and hot. So these are air-conditioned place and open. So the whole day it is used. And the idea of the shopping center of the mall is not just the shopping, but it's a leisure. You can go there and stay a whole day and spend the time Abu Dhabi Mall. And here Medina Jumeirah, duplicating the idea of the traditional markets with the traditional decorative elements and so on. And some of the monumental buildings like the Frame in Dubai, the Opera House in Dubai. And now also lately continuing with the modern architecture and construction with the 3D modeling. This is the Dubai Future Foundation, all done as a 3D modeling. And I think as most of you have seen, the Expo 2020, again, the ideas of sustainability, connectivity, opportunity, all of this nice building which was done. Al-Wasl Dome, the sustainability pavilion, and again the buildings like UAE Pavilion done by very famous architects like Calatrava, the Saudi Pavilion, I think most of you have visited. And also very unique buildings like Qasr al-Watan, Abu Dhabi from 2019, combination of the Islamic architecture into the modern in a very nice way using the modern materials. Muhammad bin Rashad Library, like a book which is opened. It is a 7-story building, very nice modern library. The B.C.E headquarters in Sharjah, also done by Zaha Hadid. Some kind open, I think formally Sheikh Sultan, he opened it, but they are going to move, I think, next month to the building. Very nice, in the middle of the sand dunes on the way to Al Zaid. It is like the sand dunes, you see it, but with concrete and openings and light. Very sustainable building also. Also the leisure building, the Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi, the Sheikh Hazza bin Zayed stadiums, and many stadiums coming also in different Emirates. Sheikh Hamdan Sport Complex for swimming, the Sheikh Zayed Cricket Stadium, and also parks more specialized, larger, to give this kind of breathe to the cities. Zabil Park, Dubai Miracle Garden, the Dubai Safari and the Sharjah Safari. And finally, now residential, it needs a whole because we have thousands and thousands of villas, but all different shapes. So we have the Islamic designs, we have the heritage designs, the very modern designs, European, and you can notice all of this because different architects from different parts of the world working in the country. And these are some of the modern projects coming in the way, inshallah. Just next to here, the Sheikh Zayed National Museum, inshallah within a couple of years to be finished by Norman Foster. the Guggenheim Abu Dhabi Museum by Frank Gehry, and Abu Dhabi Natural History Museum. So very nice international level museums coming up, inshallah, in the country. And the Creek Tower, which the foundation is finished and waiting for the final completion, supposed to be minimum 1 kilometer high along the creek in Dubai. This is the summary, the evolution from 6,500 BC to 2,500 Hili to Al-Dur 1st century AD, and then the 9th century, 14th century with Al-Bidya Mosque, Qasr al-Hassan 1700, 1800 Sheikh Said House, the courtyard and the Wind Tower, and then started the towers, the skyscrapers 1799, 2010, 2020, and then we have 2117. They want to build the UAE village on Mars, inshallah. This is something which I came up with. Maybe I like the architects also to help me. We have the definition for Islamic architecture, Chinese architecture, European architecture. This is the architecture which I and also some of my colleagues, we want for the Emirates, how the architecture should, whether we want this skyscraper glass buildings or traditional or what we need. So I believe that the good architecture, suitable one for our country, is the modern architecture language. So we have the modernity, distinct vocabulary, elements and designs, which is the distinctiveness of that architecture. And we find some of these they had, what we have seen, representing and symbolizing the United Arab Emirates. So when we look at it, we know that this is UAE. It is not Japanese architecture or Chinese or European, derived from the local architectural heritage, but in a modern language, suitable for customs and traditions of the Emiratis, especially with the housing and so on, privacy and so. So this is the identity, and compatible and consistent with the environment and climate of the region, which is very important, the sustainability. Finally, quick thing about the Architectural Heritage Society, which I'm leading. It was founded in 2003. The vision is a living heritage with a future vision. And the main goal is to increase the awareness about the importance of preservation of the architecture. What we do lectures like this, seminars, conferences, exhibitions, training courses, visits to different parts. This is the nicest thing we do in the society. Within the last 19 years, we visited about 50 countries, from Japan to Chile, all different parts of the world. Every year before Corona, we had like 2-3 trips. We call it cultural trips. From early morning until night, we visit historic buildings, archaeological sites, old markets, give a lecture or listen to lecture and so on. And finally, the quote of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed: the future belongs to those who can imagine, design and implement it. The future does not wait. The future can be designed and built today. And that's what I think our rulers are doing. Thank you very much.